Are we everywhere? Hi, everybody. I think we're live everywhere we need to be. Hi, everybody. I am Carol Williams with Williams Immigration, which is a boutique immigration firm. We work with businesses and families looking to work and live in the U.S. I was live yesterday on Inauguration Day, giving you an update of what happened during the inauguration. So I wanted to come back again today and answer any questions that you may have now that things have kind of settled in and sunken in a little bit for folks. So if you have any questions, you are more than welcome to ask them of me. I did want to talk a little bit about the birthright citizenship situation that we have going on. The White House issued an executive order yesterday, essentially saying that if you are a child born of parents that are not U.S. citizens or green card holders, and you're born in the United States on U.S. soil, that you would not automatically become a U.S. citizen. And that applies to children that are born of folks that are here lawfully. So if you're here in a non-immigrant status, if you're here on a visa, if you're here on a visitor visa, let's say you're working here, you're on an H-1B, that executive order says that your child would not be a U.S. citizen. So lawsuits have already been filed, trying to counter that. So obviously we'll be watching what happens with those lawsuits, but that executive order would not go into place for 30 days. So that is not effective immediately. So we'll kind of follow that as it goes through the court system. But I wanted to let you guys know about that this evening. There's also a hiring freeze. So one of the executive orders froze the hiring in the federal government. In terms of immigration, what that means is, and he froze hiring across all of the federal agencies. So it's not just USCIS or Department of State, it is all of the federal agencies are experiencing now a hiring freeze. And what that means for you, if you have an immigration case, it means greater backlogs. It means it's going to take longer for your case to wind its way through the immigration system. So just keep that in mind. So if y'all have any questions on your cases, I'm here to answer them. See how I can give you some general information. A usual disclaimer of lawyers: I am a lawyer. I am an immigration lawyer, but I am not your immigration lawyer. So if you'd like to work with a firm, we can always do a consult and get that going for you. But I like to come live just to answer some really basic questions for you. But if you guys have questions, I'm happy to answer them. If you don't have questions, then I will, oh, my water bottle's empty. There we go. Then I will pop off and come back in tomorrow and see if you guys have questions then. So if you have questions, I'll give you a minute or two to pop them in the in the chat, and just let you know we are live on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok. So if you've got questions on any of those platforms, just put them in and then we can see. Let's see here. What do we have? I see my buddy Jim Hacking joined. Hey, Jim. Hey, Stacy. Good to see you. What do we have here? Someone is asking if the birthright citizenship executive order is retroactive, or if that will have a retroactivity date. As of right now, it does not. So what that means is that it is forward looking. So he wants it, the president wants it to be active and start in 30 days. So it would potentially impact children that are born in 30 days. But again, that there are court challenges to that have been filed today. Our immigration litigators have been working just as hard as the White House administration has in terms of drafting executive orders. Our immigration litigators have been drafting responses to what we thought those executive orders would be. Let me see, what else do we have here? Thank you for the hearts, guys. I appreciate them. What else? Any questions? You guys know me. If there are no questions, I'm gonna go eat dinner. Y'all know I like to come on right before I have dinner. So dinner is actually in the oven. So what else do we have this evening? I feel like some people are just kind of mentally fried right now, which is okay. I get that. I totally get that. Someone is asking if they have, is now a good time to start their family-based case. And it looks like you've got looks like you're married to a U.S. citizen. I would say yes. Now is a good time to start that case. Now is a good time to get that filed. And you want to honestly get that filed sooner rather than later, because the processing times are going to slow down. And while I always joke around about my crystal ball, I kind of don't really need a crystal ball for this one. During the previous Trump administration, there was a hiring freeze. There were new policies coming at us left and right. And when we have all the new policy changes, when we have a hiring freeze, it means that there's a finite number of people now to process these applications. And so as we keep filing applications, because we're not going to stop filing applications, right? We're not going to stop filing applications for our clients that qualify for a benefit, that qualify for a green card, that qualify for U.S. citizenship, that need an H-1B, that need an L-1, right? We're not going to stop filing applications. So we're going to see this tremendous number of applications that are going to be filed, and without additional staff, without additional people to process those applications, we're going to see a backlog. So if you are waiting for something, I don't know what, I would say now is the time to stop waiting and get your application in. And I had a question is offline. I got a question today that I think is really helpful for you guys. Question was from someone who is a U.S. citizen. Their spouse is here unlawfully, but their spouse entered lawfully. Their spouse, although they are undocumented today, their spouse entered with a visa. So, they flew in, they got stamped at the, in the airport, and they just happened to overstay their time here in the U.S. It happens, right? Well, the law allows for that person, the immigration law allows for, if that person is in a true relationship, a true loving relationship, all the things with a U.S. citizen, because they came in, because they entered the U.S. in status, all of their time out of status is forgiven. So that person was super worried about, should we file now? Should we wait? Like, what's happening? And I say file now, right? If that's your scenario, if you're a U.S. citizen and you're married to someone who entered lawfully and who is now undocumented, and you want to get your spouse a green card, I would say file now. And your time out of status is in fact forgiven. So just keep that in mind. Got another question over on Instagram. Will the new administration fasten the approvals? Honestly, probably not. Probably not. The new administration has instituted a hiring freeze. That was one of the executive orders from last night. Y'all, when I tell you this new administration came in and hit the ground running, not only were there executive orders that directly impacted immigration, there were other executive orders that, impacted other federal agencies that have zero to do with immigration. So it wasn't just immigration that was the focus of these executive orders. So I just, so keep that in mind, that this new administration has absolutely hit the ground running, and they've put, it seems, quite a bit of thought into what they wanted to do on day one. So with that hiring freeze, I think it may take maybe a couple of months before we start to see things really kind of backlog, but I think we're looking at more backlogs. I think we're looking at backlogs to the extent that we saw them back during COVID, because now there's a finite number of people to process these applications. Someone is saying, I can't believe someone would even say the idea of ending birthright citizenship out loud, let alone actually act on it. Well, you are not alone in that thought. There are many people out here that absolutely sort of take your view on this. And there is litigation already pending that was filed today to try to strike this down, this particular executive order. So we'll see where that takes us. You're also asking, where's my office located? I am located in Florida, but I work with clients all over the US and all over the world. What else do we have over here? Thought I saw some questions come in over here on TikTok. Someone is asking, can I be deported if I have a work permit and social? I'm assuming that means social security number. So can I be deported if I have a work permit and social security number while I am awaiting on my green card? So my office does not handle deportation cases, but that said, in general, if you are here and you're undocumented and the immigration service picks you up, they find you, you somehow come in contact with law enforcement, deportation is something that is possible. There is a process to deportation, though. So, I understand there's a lot of worry. I would say if you have an attorney, I would say you definitely want to ask that question of your attorney, a deportation attorney. They are going to have much better information than myself. They're going to have really good information on what have been the priorities of this administration in the past when it has come to deportation. But my office does not specifically handle deportation. But I like your question, because I always say to people, even if you are a green card holder, even if you're a lawful permanent resident, and remember those, we use those interchangeably because they are, you can still be deported. You can still be put into deportation proceedings. So again, that is a question that I definitely would like you to ask of an immigration lawyer that handles deportation cases all day, every day. Let's see here. Stacy. My pleasure. I am more than happy to help this evening. My I-130-45 is at the decision stage since December. How soon will I hear something? I'm not quite sure what you mean by at the decision stage. But if you go on to USCIS.gov, hold on, I'm actually going to go onto the website now. I'm not going to share, but if you go into USCIS.gov, you scroll down, you can get to check your case status and check processing times. If you go to check processing times, you will see a 3 drop-down menus, and you can choose your form, then you choose your form category, then you choose the field office or service center that is currently processing your case. All that information is on your receipt notices, and then it spits out a processing time to you, right? And that is for any case. So it's not just your I-130 or 45. That works with employment-based cases. That works with family-based cases. So that will tell you what your processing times are. So I don't know how long it's going to take you to get your I-130 because I don't know. Processing times depend on what type of case you filed and which office is processing your case. So oftentimes we will see cases being transferred to different offices. People tend to freak out when that happens. I kind of like that because it means that the agency is trying to shift and balance its workload. And when they do that, ideally, it evens out our case processing times. So I always look at that as a good thing. Let me see here. So Diana Lewis, thank you for that question. I hope that was helpful. Let me see here. Y'all know I'm a slow scroller. Let me see here. Can you still apply for tourist visas? I mean, the short answer to your question is yes, right? But the real answer is, right? So the short answer is yes. The real answer is I don't know, right? Yes, you can absolutely apply for one. Will it get approved? That I don't know, right? That I don't know. So I think if you can show the immigration officer that you truly want to come to the U.S. for a temporary visit, and that you have strong ties to your home country, it should be approved. But tourist visas are tough to get approved. So, I have some colleagues that just don't work on tourist visas because they just think you're sort of fighting a losing battle with a tourist visa. I have other colleagues that fight for them vehemently. So it just, the short answer is yes. Technically, he hasn't, the current president hasn't, stripped us of our ability to apply for tourist visas, but they can be pretty daunting to get them, to be honest with you. If my case is pending and my husband is military with a citizenship, can he file for me? Excuse me. I'm not quite sure what you mean by my case is pending, but in general, so we're going to kind of take it out of the realm of your question a little bit. But in general, if your spouse is a U.S. citizen, they can file for a green card. Now, what that application looks like is, will depend on, whether you entered the U.S. with status, whether you entered the U.S. without status. If you entered without status, how many times did you enter without status? Were you caught at the border? All sorts of things. All sorts of things go into that. But yes, if you have a U.S. citizen spouse, they can sponsor you. Will that application be successful? Will depend on your specific immigration background. So that is why I would always say you want to have a consultation with a lawyer who can look at your specific situation and give you some really pointed legal advice. But in general, yes, your U.S. citizen spouse can sponsor you. Let's see here. Someone is saying that they adopted a baby in Cameroon. Will that be a problem? I don't. What do you mean by will that be a problem? Will you be able to bring that child here? Is that what you're asking? But so let me kind of answer that in a super general way, right? So adoption, overseas adoption is an incredibly niche area within U.S. immigration. It is incredibly detailed. Is an incredible niche area. It is not an area that my office does. So if you have adopted a child that is overseas, or you're thinking about, or you are in the process of adopting a child that is overseas, I cannot recommend enough that you work with an immigration lawyer who has extensive experience in overseas adoptions. I truly cannot emphasize that enough. So outside of that, congratulations. That's very exciting. That's very exciting that you're adding to your family. It's very exciting that you have a new baby and that you're expanding your family. So congratulations. That is very cool. I like to celebrate wins on my channels. So that is our win for this evening. So congratulations. Let's see what else we have going on. I am Cuban, but I have an order of removal. But I get my work permit. Am I getting deported? The short answer to your question is I don't know. And you may have just recently hopped on. My office does not handle deportation matters. And so I don't even dabble or guess about deportation issues. I would recommend that you sit down and have a conversation, do a consultation with an immigration lawyer that handles deportation cases all day, every day. You do not want to work with someone who is simply dabbling in deportation. And frankly, I would be doing less than dabbling because I literally have not touched a deportation case and I cannot tell you when. My practice does not center around deportation. So I'm sorry, I don't even have a general answer to your question. So I hope that's helpful. I mean, I don't know that it is, but I hope that was a little bit helpful. Someone is asking, in your point of view, is fiance visa faster or spouse visas? So here's the deal. I have a colleague and we talk about fiance versus spousal visas all the time. So here's kind of my take on fiance visa versus a spousal visa. Fiance visas take a long time right now. Like they just are, right? If you have the ability to get married, that will be at this point faster than doing a fiance visa. If you don't have the ability to get married, then I am all for the fiance visa, right? Because the fiance visa is there. It's certainly usable, right? I think of the fiance visa right now, given the current processing times. And again, I think the processing times are only going to get longer with the hiring freeze. I think the fiance visa is a great option if you are part of a same-sex couple that your home country does not recognize legally. So you're a same-sex couple, your country does not recognize same-sex marriage. Then I think in that instance, I think fiance visas work, right? The other option for same-sex couples where the immigrant's home country does not recognize their marriage, their relationship, is to go to a third country, go somewhere else, get married, the U.S. Immigration Service recognizes a marriage certificate and a marriage if it was legal in the place where the marriage took place. So let's say let's say you're in a same-sex marriage. Let's say your home country does not recognize that same-sex marriage. You can, let's say you go to a third country. Let's say you go to Australia. Let's say you go to the UK, assuming those two countries recognize same-sex marriage, you can get married there. You get your divorce decree. And then you can, and then you can go home, and then you can file as a married, as someone that is married to a U.S. citizen. So in general, I think the fiance visas are taking longer. I think if you can get married, and that is something that you want to do as part of your relationship, right? I'm not saying go out and get married just for the sake of getting your green card. I'm not saying that at all. But if you are, if you know that marriage is what you all want to do, from a processing standpoint, you can always get married in a third country and make it happen that way. Let me see. What do we got over here? Let's see here. So I hope that was helpful on fiance visa versus spousal visa. This is a great question. Someone's asking, why is USCIS skipping my case, my 601A, pending since July of 2022, and some people have already had theirs approved? The short answer is I have no idea, right? That's like the absolute short answer. I am honestly that lawyer that's going to tell you, I don't know, right? The Immigration Service processes things. They tell us they process things on a first in, first out basis. Is it a strict first in, first out basis? No, right? And the reason it is a no is because if your case ends up on the desk of Officer A and my case ends up on the desk of Officer B, if Officer A is just quicker at processing their cases, it's going to seem like your case is not on a desk. It's, and it should be, right? And so that's one thing, right? Things change, priorities within the federal agencies change. And sometimes, shockingly, things fall through the cracks of the agency, right? Like they're all human. We're all human. So things happen. And I know that nobody ever likes that answer out of me. Like truly nobody does. And I get it. But sometimes there's absolutely nothing wrong with your case. It's just taking a while to process. And I know from colleagues that do a ton of 601As that those are just taking a long time. So my colleagues and I celebrate when they get a 601A approval, but because they are taking such a long time. So why is your case taking longer than your friends or, than someone else that I don't know. That is really sort of agency, if I truly had a crystal ball and it really, really worked, that is one of the things I would absolutely try to figure out. What if you were born in the US and live here, but your parents don't live here and are not US citizens? I'm not quite sure what you're asking. Are you asking, can you as a US citizen sponsor your parents? That answer is yes. In order to be an adult child sponsoring your parents for their green cards, the adult child must be 21 years or older. Someone is asking my BF, we're going to assume that means boyfriend, is on an international student visa. Is he at risk? And I'm going to assume, is he at risk for deportation is what you're asking. If your BF is here as an international student and he is in status and following the rules of being an international student, he shouldn't be at risk for being deported, right? Deportation has rules. Deportation process has rules that ideally must be followed, right? So, if someone is here in the US and they entered lawfully, they're in status, there shouldn't be an issue, right? What I would say is make sure that you have your status documents on you as you move about, right now. But if someone is here in status and they're not violating their status, they're not committing crimes, they don't come in contact with law enforcement, then I think they should be okay. I'm not out here to like get people all hyped up and sort of be a fear monger, right? If you are here, entered lawfully with status, I think, you're not particularly going to be on anyone's radar. Let's see here. What else do we have? A couple people are saying hello. Thank you for joining. let's see here. How long are FOIAs taking? Depends on which agency you are requesting a FOIA from. Some FOIAs, I think, I was just talking about this with a friend of mine. I think they got their FOIA like in a couple of weeks, but then others are taking a couple of months. Others take longer. It really depends on which agency and what you're asking for, and how. A big thing with FOIAs is then the more narrow your FOIA request, like the easier and thus quicker it's going to be for the agency to give you what you are asking. So that's kind of a key with FOIAs. Is that you want to be as targeted as possible. Someone has lost their EAD, which is their employment authorization document. They applied for a replacement. Is there a way to expedite? No, not really. Sorry. You have to have a really, really, really good reason to have that EAD expedited. But in general, no, their USCIS is not, certainly right now, they are certainly not going to expedite an EAD unless you have an incredibly compelling reason to have it expedited, which again, I know is not at all what you want to hear from me. Jenny Q, how are you doing? You and I haven't spoken in a while. I hope you are well, my dear. I hope you are well. Let's see here. If my spouse came seeking asylum and I'm a U.S. citizen, how can we file for a green card? That is a consultation question, to be very honest with you. That is super broad. And so when I answer questions like, how can I file for X benefit, for a green card, for an H-1B, for an L-1, for an O-1, that is where a consultation is super helpful. That gives me an opportunity to really dig into your background, your immigration background, and see whether or not you qualify for a green card. Can someone on an H-1B apply for a green card? Absolutely. I do that all day, every day for folks. So yes, generally speaking, if you are in H-1B status, you can apply for your green card. Now, the question is always, should you, right? And the answer to that question is really what you want to know, which is, I don't know, right? Because I don't know your specific immigration background. But in general, can someone who is in H-1B status apply for a green card? Absolutely. Let's see here. How long does it take to receive the work permit after applying for asylum? I don't know. I don't know processing times. My office also doesn't handle asylum cases, so that's not something I can even tell you anecdotally. You know, I can't even say to you, hey, I have several clients and it's taking X long. I have no idea. But if you go to the USCIS website, on the homepage, hold on, let me scroll back. If you go onto the homepage, you scroll down if you're on a computer on the, I don't know my left or my right, it's a shame. On your right-hand side, you'll see check processing times. You want to click check processing times. And then you can, you'll see 3 drop-down boxes. The first one will be the form. So you'll select the form number, the form category, which you are working with asylum. So you'll select the form category, then the office that has your application, and then click get processing times, and it will tell you how long it is taking them to process. Now, these processing times, I believe, are for roughly 80% of their caseload. There are always going to be outliers. There are always going to be cases that get processed super fast, and there are going to be cases that process super long, right? These processing times represent roughly, I believe, 80% of their caseload. Which is, over 50%. So it's still, a significant number. What else do we have by way of questions? How can TPS get protection after expiring? Super good question. I do not handle TPS in my practice. So my practice really focuses on 2 different pieces of immigration. I focus on businesses, and with those businesses, getting folks who are employed the right work authorization, so the right visa, making sure that their family members who are coming with them have the right immigration authorization. And I work with typically on my family side, I typically work with U.S. citizens that are looking to sponsor their spouses, fiancés, dependent children, and aging parents for green cards. So asylum, deportation is not at all in my wheelhouse. I may talk about this in a very, very, very broad context, but those are not cases that my office handles. We refer out all of those cases to colleagues. What else do we have? Do I think citizenship applications for green card holders will be impacted? Yes. I think all applications are going to be impacted because there's currently a hiring freeze in the federal government. When there is a hiring freeze in the federal government, specifically in USCIS, Department of State, Department of Labor, ICE, the agencies that touch immigration cases, a hiring freeze means that we on the outside, me and my colleagues, right, we're going to keep filing applications for our clients. Like people are going to keep coming to us. They're going to be, hey, I need your help. We're going to say, absolutely, let me help you, right? We're going to keep filing cases. The demand for new cases being filed, the agency is going to struggle to keep up at the current pace because they are not going to have enough employees. They're not going to have enough officers to process these cases. So do I think citizenship applications for green card holders are going to be impacted? Yes, because I think we're going to see backlogs increasing. What I haven't seen, however, is anything that specifically changes the way that citizenship applications are processed. But y'all, we're in a little over 24 hours of the new administration. So if this iteration of the administration is anything like the first administration, we're going to see a lot of changes coming at us. So as of today, the only change I see is that, ultimately on down the line, assuming this hiring freeze stays in place, the backlogs are going to increase. But as of right now, today, I have not seen anything that changes how an officer would process a citizenship application. Let me see here. I appreciate the badges, y'all. Thank you. I just became a U.S. citizen. Congratulations. That's awesome. It looks like you submitted an I-130 for your mom. How long will that take? I don't know off the top of my head, but if you go onto the USCIS site, you can scroll down on the right-hand side and click on processing times, and you'll see 3 drop-down menus, and it will tell you. And again, those processing times are for roughly 80% of similar cases in that same category. Let me see here. Someone is saying that they had their job offer rescinded today due to the freeze, not at immigration agency, and their job is stated. I'm sorry. That super sucks. That absolutely sucks. So I'm very sorry for that. But hopefully you're able to bounce back and get something soon. I will divorce. Please, I will divorce in February. Is it possible I can marry my U.S. citizen boyfriend? Yes, absolutely. Do not marry your boyfriend until you are legally divorced, until you have your divorce decree in hand. So yes, you can get married to your boyfriend. Do not do so until you have your divorce decree in hand. Please, 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 please. I see my buddy Bianca's on. Hello. I don't know if you're still on, but hello, dear. I know Bianca came to harass me. She was live when she shouldn't have been, when she was sick and on vacation. And I went into her live and completely harassed her. But that's all right. That's all right. Turnabout is fair play. I'm down with it. I'm down with it. What else do we have here? What other questions you got? Before you can get married again. Do you have a waiting? You have to wait a period before you can get married again. It's on my head. I'm not quite sure if that is a question or a statement. My friend has asylum and work permits and employment authorization. Will he get deported? The short answer to your question is I don't know, because I don't know your friend's particular situation. What I would say is I think the best thing you can tell your friend to do is to have a conversation with an immigration lawyer who does asylum cases all day, every day. My office does not handle asylum cases, so that is not a question that I am best suited to answer for you. So your friend wants to talk to a lawyer, an immigration lawyer that handles asylum cases all day, every day. Let's see here. Over on YouTube, it was noted there is a new director of USCIS and Homeland Security. They submitted mandamus suing Mayorkas. Will this change affect anything? So here's the deal. Whenever the White House changes hands, like it doesn't matter what party someone is in, whenever the White House changes hands, the new incoming president will appoint a new number one and number two of every single federal agency. So not just USCIS, not just Homeland Security, but like Department of State, IRS, SEC, FDA, like every single federal agency. The incoming president appoints the number one and the number two at the agency. So the director and the deputy director of the agency. So that is normal. That is 110% normal. Will appointing new director and deputy directors impact change at an agency? Absolutely it will. Absolutely it will. The new incoming director and deputy director will come into an agency and look to implement and carry forward what the new White House administration wants to see out of that agency, right? So if we look at USCIS, if we look at Department of Homeland Security, if we look at ICE, we know that our current president is very enforcement minded. We know that the new incoming president wants to see change at our southern border. So we know that we're going to see these agencies that handle immigration or touch immigration. It's not going to be a surprise when these agencies now start doing things that have more enforcement to them. That is how the government machine works, right? So will a new director of USCIS and Homeland Security and Department of State and Department of Labor, those are agencies that all touch immigration, right, of ICE, yes, there will be changes and shifts that we will see from a Biden administration to a Trump administration. Absolutely. That is a great question, and I am super happy that you asked that question. Let's see, what else do we have? And so I hope that was helpful. What else do we have here? Someone who has a pending asylum case since 2018, what is the next option for me? Short answer is I don't know, because I do not handle asylum. I'm perfectly comfortable telling you that. I would say that you should do a consultation with an immigration lawyer that handles asylum cases all day, every day. You want someone who really, truly understands the situation that you're in and can ask you the right questions and truly understand your particular situation. And I am not the one to ask you the right questions and to really dig in for an asylum case. So yeah, sorry, I'm just not the right immigration lawyer for you when it comes to asylum issues. So what happened if I don't pay for my bills from the hospital? Am I going to get deported? I have no idea, right? Are we at the point where we're being sued for these bills? Are we, I mean, there's a whole host of questions I would ask, right? There's a whole host of questions I would ask if you were sitting in a consultation with me. So the short answer to your answer is I don't know. And part of it depends on, do you have an application pending? Are you currently applying for anything? So that's there's a lot behind that question that I would have to dig into. So I would say I'm happy to do that with you, but I would say that you should schedule a consultation and we can talk about it. Back over on YouTube. Do you know what delay tactics they meaning the federal agencies, I'm assuming, try to push with mandamus, if I may ask? I don't know, quite honestly. I don't know that the Immigration Service tries to sort of push off responding to federal court filings. There are rules in court, right? So there are rules in terms of how long each side has to do each thing, right? So someone files, the other side has, X number of days, weeks, months, whatever it is, to respond. So there's a timeline cadence when you are in court. So I don't honestly think that the federal government is trying to delay that timeline. I'm not sure if that answers your question, but I hope it does. Let's see here. Y'all know I'm a slow scroller. Sorry about that. Thank you for the rose. I appreciate it. So, come to U.S. with a felony record. Oh, this is a good question. Can I apply for someone to come to the U.S. with a felony record? So I don't know if you are asking if you, as the U.S. citizen, have the felony record. I'm going to assume you're a U.S. citizen. I'm going to kind of tweak your question a little bit. Or if you are asking if you, as a U.S. citizen, are trying to get a green card for someone, and that potential immigrant has a felony record. So if you are a U.S. citizen and you have a felony record, it depends on what your felony record is for, right? So in general, the Immigration Service will look to see, as the petitioner, as the U.S. citizen in this hypothetical, if you have what they call a specified crime against a minor. That then puts you squarely in the Adam Walsh realm. And so the Adam Walsh realm is a law that was designed and passed to protect children. So if you are the U.S. citizen and you have committed a crime against a child, your ability to sponsor someone for a green card is severely, severely, severely limited. If your question is about the immigrant, the person that you want to sponsor, having a felony record, an analysis needs to be done as to how the Immigration Service would look at that felony. And so I don't know what the felony is. I don't know where it's from. Like, I don't know. Obviously I don't know any details. Right. But if there is a felony record on either side, meaning the U.S. citizen or the intending immigrant, I would say that you really need to have a conversation with a lawyer that handles and looks at and can do the analysis of a criminal history and how the Immigration Service is going to look at that criminal history. And hold on one second, my chair is acting weird. Oh, much better. Okay. We're going to take a couple more questions because some of you weren't on at the beginning, but my dinner is in the oven and I can start to smell it. Let me see here. So, our income, this is a great question. I love this question. Are income taxes together necessary for my husband to start his process? So I'm going to make a couple of assumptions here. I'm going to make an assumption that you all, that one of you is a U.S. citizen, maybe that you're the U.S. citizen asking the question, that you and your husband may not be filing your taxes together. Listen, I tell my clients, especially my clients that are married, where we're getting a green card for one of the people, live your life the way you want to live your life. Live your life the way you want to live your life. My job is to tell your story to the Immigration Service, right? And so why aren't you filing your taxes together, right? Like, I don't know why you're not filing your taxes together. Only the two of you know why you're not filing your taxes together. And that is where having an immigration attorney can really, really help you, because they can sit down with you and really dig in and ask you questions like, well, why aren't you filing your taxes together? Right? Yes. The short answer, the Immigration Service loves to see jointly filed taxes. But you know who doesn't require jointly filed taxes? The IRS. They don't require married couples to file their taxes jointly, right? So these are some of the things that I run into with my clients all the time. And it leads to conversation with my clients, right? It leads to conversations. It leads to me figuring out why they're living their life the way that they are and explaining that to the Immigration Service such that the Immigration Service believes that they can check all of the boxes that lead to an approval, right? So just not filing your taxes jointly just doesn't mean that you're breaking the law. Again, the IRS doesn't require that, right? And I know that because when I was married, my ex-husband and I didn't file our taxes jointly. So it's okay, right? Like, it's not a requirement. For immigration purposes, we just look why. We just need to know why, right? Not filing your taxes together is not the end of the world. Over to Instagram. For those managing employment-based immigration, what do you foresee the key impacts being for talent mobility? I just did an update for some global mobility, talent mobility folks this afternoon. And I may do an entire live on that, quite honestly, because there's a lot right now, right? So while I think the executive orders of last night, maybe 24 hours ago now, none of them really specifically talk about employment-based immigration and talent mobility and global mobility, right? None of them were specifically like, and here's what we're going to do about H's and here's what we're going to do about L's. None of them were like that. There are some that are specifically immigration related, and there's some that I am calling immigration adjacent that will absolutely impact those folks that are managing employment-based immigration within their companies. One is the freeze on hiring within the federal government as a whole. That will lead to longer processing times of applications, because folks on the outside like me, we're not going to stop filing applications, and talent and mobility folks are still going to be tasked with finding and hiring folks, and some of those folks are going to be from outside of the U.S., and some of those folks are going to need sponsorship. The backlogs that we will begin to see, in-house talent mobility and global mobility folks should be having conversations with their folks internally to say, maybe we need to think a little bit more longer term. How do we get people in the door? How do we get them in the door quickly? How do we plan for them? How do we plan for these backlogs? Are we going to file things using premium processing, right? So planning a little bit more long term, given the what I am calling impending backlogs. Just my own crystal ball tells me we're going to have a lot of backlogs, based upon the first administration where there was also a hiring freeze, and we saw backlogs increase. While birthright citizenship is also not specifically employment immigration based, there may be some employees that you have who are pregnant, who are terrified, whose spouses are pregnant, and they are now terrified that their child is not going to be considered a U.S. citizen. That's not why they took the job, but that is something that they have certainly planned on, right? And so that potential higher stress level will probably need, they may appreciate a little bit of, kind of help managing their stress and anxiety from global mobility, right? So you all may be getting those types of phone calls. So yeah, those are kind of two things that I see right off the bat. I also think that we see that there are some really significant and prominent IT folks that are advising and have the ear of our current president. So I will not be surprised if we see more, maybe not executive orders, but maybe more policies coming out of the White House with specific respect to employment-based immigration. So I think there are several things that we are seeing and that we will see when it comes to employment-based immigration. So yeah, if you want to send me a DM, Morgan, I may do just an entire live for our mobility folks, our global talent folks. So I hope that was helpful. My crystal ball is sometimes good, sometimes not so good. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. What else do we have here? All right, y'all. I think. Someone's asking me, I think this is going to be my last question for the evening. Someone's asking me, what about students? Sometimes I love that y'all questions are so incredibly broad. I can just take them wherever I want to take them. I think there's a lot of angst, at least based on the calls and the emails that I've been getting from international students. And I understand that. During the last administration, it was the last administration plus COVID plus, what are we what can we do? And so if you are here and you're an international student and you are doing, and you are in status, you're doing what you should be doing, you came in lawfully, I don't at this point see any problems. But to be honest with you, this point is January 21st, right? So I don't know if we will see anything for the, I don't know if we will see anything that will directly impact international students, that will be directly about international students, or if we will see something that is sort of international student adjacent, right? That may impact international students. I don't know yet. A lot of this is going to be, we're going to have to take a wait and see approach, and just kind of manage that wait and see approach and the anxiety that I know a lot of people are feeling. But it is kind of a one step at a time thing that we are doing. So as of right now, I see international students as, the same way I saw them 12 days ago, right? I don't see anything that is going to significantly change our international student population. If anything, I know a lot of international students, especially those who are who maybe graduated in December or who are on STEM OPT, are gearing up for another round of the H-1B lottery. So we'll just take it one step at a time. And someone today actually asked me if there are any changes currently to the upcoming H-1B lottery. The short answer to that is no. I have not seen any changes again in this little over 24-hour cycle since the inauguration. I've not seen any changes that would that are directly H-1B related. So as of right now, the H-1B lottery is, I'm planning with my clients to do the same thing that we always do for the lottery, right? Get people entered into the lottery in March and cross our fingers that they get chosen at the end of March when the lottery is run. So we've been on for an hour. My dinner is in the oven, and if I burn it, that will not be a good look or a good smell. Y'all know I always come on before my dinner. So I will be back again. Let me check my calendar. What's today? Tuesday, Wednesday. I will be back tomorrow evening sometime. And we will continue to chat about this. Hopefully these chats are helpful for you. Hopefully they are helping sort of decrease your anxiety levels. We did this once before. We will do it again, y'all. But again, I am Carol Williams with Williams Immigration. We have a boutique immigration law firm where we work with companies, global mobility, talent professionals, as well as U.S. citizens who want to get green cards for their family members. If you want to talk about your individual case, click the link, get yourself scheduled for a consult. It will be with me, yours truly. So if you like my vibe, if you like the way I think, if you like the way I kind of roll with it, come roll with it with us. My entire staff is like me, which some people think is great. Some people think it's not so great. But truly, we are not fear mongering over here. We are taking it one step at a time. And that is how that's how we got through the last administration. That's how we'll get through this one. That's how we get through any administration, y'all. Any single administration has changes to immigration. So while there were a lot of changes seemingly overnight, every single administration makes changes when they come in and throughout their term in office. And it's just a matter of keeping up with the changes. So this has been great. As always, I will see you again tomorrow night. Have a wonderful evening. And take care. And I'm going to go eat my dinner. Bye, y'all.